Hey, give thanks for life. Give thanks for life. Oh, chimney, chimney. Today my rise like the sunrise, my bright and my upright. No one can break my vibe.
Welcome once again to Strong and Healthy with Dr. Sam Christian, the program that informs and inspires. Today we have for you a presentation by Dominicans overseas to the Dominica Cancer Society. And we're going to spend some time talking about my colleague and my friend, our Dr. Philippe Saint-Jean. And so the word for today is one that we're all familiar with. It's taken from 2 Timothy chapter 4, verses 7 and 8. It says, I have fought a good fight. I have finished my course. I have kept the faith. Henceforth, there is laid up for me a crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, shall give me on that day, but not to me only, but unto all those who love his appearing. Dr. Philippe Saint-Jean was a friend of mine and a friend and a patient doctor to patients around the country. And was such a tragic day when we heard of his loss. And we're going to just share some remarks from some people who knew him. There you can see him with Darren Sammy of St. Lucia when he had the medic program at the cricket grounds. And we're now just going to play some audio remarks from people who knew him.
Start talking.
Hello, Sam. Hi. This is Emmanuel from Washington. And like you, like many of us at home and abroad, we saddened by the death of our friend, Dr. Saint-Jean, as we grew up together in La Plaine, and we called him Murray. My favorite memories of this guy was he was just a people's person. I remember many times just swimming in the Lauren River and playing along the banks. Of course, he lived right across from the Lauren River. Literally, you could walk backwards to his home from the river. But more than that, I remember setting dove traps with him. So it's kind of really gone too soon. I'm really saddened. It really hit me so hard. But I think those of us who are away, and those of you like you, Sam, and Dr. Saint-Jean, and others who have chosen to return home and help folks, because obviously Dominica belongs to us. And there's something to be said about this. As we're away, but really our home, our hearts, our mind, our waking hours, it's pretty much in the middle of Roseau, in the foothills of La Plaine in my case. So I'm not sure what transpired that took him so early when he's so much needed, but I think the good thing is that he's gone, but certainly not forgotten. And like me, like you, poor kid from the La Plaine Valley who made good, and needed us to say he made us proud. He made us folks from across those mountains out there proud. And I suppose that's what life is all about, It's not about riches. It's certainly not about politics and trying to attain power. But certainly, at the end of the day, what have you contributed to society? And certainly, we are all in unison that Dr. Saint-Jean.
Good morning, Sam. First of all, let me thank you for the wisdom of reaching out to those who cared about Dr. Philippe Saint-Jean. Dr. Philippe Saint-Jean and I were not very close, but he was of my time. He went to the St. Mary's Academy, if I remember, while I was at the grammar school, and was always a very kind, friendly, warm, and open gentleman. And I met him last, I think, on the ferry going between Dominica and St. Lucia a couple of years ago, and he was the same kind, friendly, warm, caring human being that I knew him to be when we were at high school. So he had the facility within him to keep to that open and very human disposition, which so many have had the opportunity to comment on since his untimely death last week. I cannot but ask God's grace be upon his bereaved family and friends, and the patience of Dominica, who he so dearly loved, and from all accounts exerted himself time and time again, though with limited resources, to take care of their needs. Public service, in particular where it concerns the medical service, is a very noble calling. And I think the life of Dr. Philippe Saint-Jean, given an opportunity to serve as either physicians, as police officers, teachers, lawyers, whatever the vocation it is we take up in life, that we should do it with the same caring, open, warm, and kind disposition that came to be emblematic of the life of our dear friend, Dr. Philippe Saint-Jean. My hope is that all Dominicans in the public service, in particular the medical personnel at the Princess Margaret Hospital and the other hospitals and clinics, who over the past few months since Hurricane Maria have done so much, may find our support. We have made that support, those of us here in the diaspora with Reveal Dominica and other organizations, more manifest in recent times with the supplies we've sent down to aid those who are on the front line, as Dr. Saint-Jean was, providing assistance to the ill and the ailing on Dominica. So we know he's up in heaven looking down on us, and we wish that his spirit of giving of himself in medical service will be reflected in others who in their respective areas of professional competence give of themselves. And may we give of ourselves unselfishly. May we give of ourselves in a true-hearted manner, in a way that will bring credit to the professions that we are engaged in, and that we can work, all of us together, of one accord, to continue, as Dr. Philippe Saint-Jean tried to do, building the beloved community. May God bless his memory, and may he rise in peace.
So this is our time here with Dr. Philippe Saint-Jean. A lot of people ask me, Doc, what did Dr. Saint-Jean die from? Well, we all know that he had asthma, and we also know that he was under tremendous stress, as are all healthcare professionals during this post-Maria period. And Dr. Philippe Saint-Jean was chief among them, working very, very hard and under considerable stress. The autopsy report is not out yet. Some people have a little bit of a morbid curiosity. We don't know. And the fact is, there are a couple of things that I want to mention, and that is, it is strange when you see a doctor succumbing to a disease which he is supposed to be able to treat. I remember when I was in surgery training in New Jersey, we had a Polish surgeon. His name is Dr. Buguki. And Dr. Buguki, I'm not sure whether he's with us now, but he was the most loving, kind, gentle surgeon that you could ever imagine. And he would sing these Polish songs, and he would dance in the operating room. We just loved him. And I remember one afternoon when I was on call, they were wheeling Dr. Buguki into the operating room, lying on the gurney and on the stretcher there. And he had an acute appendicitis, and he was going to have emergency surgery. And I was like, no, not Dr. Buguki. He's a surgeon. I mean, he's our doctor, and he's going into taking the surgeon into the surgery. It seemed like a kind of contradiction. And there was another time on the news, there's a judge out of Florida who found himself in some kind of trouble, and he was in court and he was being represented by his lawyer. And again, I had that same kind of reaction. No, this is a judge. How can he be in court and being represented by a lawyer who he supposedly has authority over? You know, it's like saying if Judge Victoria Clark here in Dominica, who has such dignity and decorum and authority, and if we were to see her in court accused of something, it would, you know, it would fry up our minds a little bit. And so it tells us about life, that really none of us are immune, that all of us, I mean, it's clay, guys. It will become dust one of those days. And it is a time of great humility for all of us to realize that none of us are here forever, that death is no respecter of persons, and that we will succumb to something. Whether you live to be 100 or you die before you make that 50 mark, you know. I sometimes had doubts whether I'd make it to 50, but here I am. Whether I'll make it to be 100 is another story. How about you? Did you think about that? Do you think about that sometimes, about your life and the purpose of life and the meaning of life? What have you contributed while you were here on earth? And how have you been true to your highest ideals? So as we say goodbye to Dr. Philippe Saint-Jean, who is going to be memorialized at St. Alphonsus Church on Saturday at 9:30. Then his body will be taken to be interred in La Plaine. So those of you who have known him and who have been treated by him, and you have a great love and respect for Dr. Saint-Jean, you may want to come and be there for him as we say a joyful and a tearful farewell to Dr. Saint-Jean. So Dr. Saint-Jean had asthma, we know, and I just want to take the opportunity to talk about a few things about asthma. What is asthma? Asthma is a disease, a chronic disease of the airways where it tightens up and makes it difficult to breathe. People typically have a sort of wheezing sound. You can hear it, you don't have to put your stethoscope on the chest. And in its advanced stages, you have what we call air hunger. People have a sense of impending doom. They're scared, they're frightened, and they're using all the muscles to breathe. I'm breathing all along, but you don't see me making any great effort. But someone who has asthma is really fighting for every breath. And the inhaler, I don't have one, but you can imagine one in my hand, is critical. So if you have asthma, never, ever go anywhere without your inhaler. Carry it in your purse, carry it in your bag, your pocket, whatever the case may be. There is a case of someone going on a camp in the United States on a hike through the wilderness, you know, a nature trail, and that person was very asthmatic, and they stopped to take a break. He took out a can of soft drinks and was drinking it. He laid down on a log and, you know, chatting with the rest of his people, and a bee came and it smelled something sweet and it went into that soft drink. He drank another sip and the bee stung him on his mouth. That triggered an asthma attack, an allergic reaction, massive. They were far away from civilization, and before they could get him any help, you know, he expired. So if the person had an inhaler, that would have been able to prevent or at least give us by more time. So if you're an asthmatic, make sure you have an inhaler available. All of us get colds once or twice. I know a few people who say, I've never gotten a cold. There's a few people who say, I've never gotten a headache. But most of us have experienced a little tarpaulin flu or something. For an asthmatic, that's a big deal, because any little cold can quickly become an asthmatic attack. So we want to take those things seriously and to seek medical attention if that cold is showing any signs of progression. And the treatment is available. Once again, I remembered when I was in Washington, D.C., a gentleman who had been highly recruited in the United States, the chief education officer or the secretary of education, whatever the case may be, is like a rock star, is like one of the, like LeBron James, one of Messi, one of the top sports people, you know, like Chris Gale. And so these guys are worth big bucks. They go into different cities and they resuscitate and revive the school systems. And this guy had just been recruited in Washington, D.C., and the city was abuzz. We're getting this top educator coming in, and he's going to fix things in Washington, D.C. And I remember the afternoon, just like you remember when probably Michael Jackson died, or when Princess Diana died, those of you who are old enough, and you're like, whoa, how can this be? But this guy, I heard that he was at Howard University Hospital, and he had passed away from asthmatic attack. And I'm saying, but how can someone so great and so celebrated, you know, be allowed to die of a simple asthmatic attack? So a lot of patients have asked me, how can somebody die of asthma in Dominica? You know, you can die of asthma anywhere. So some basic things I just want to share as far as asthma. It's inherited tendency. There are cases where that asthma is triggered by certain odors, certain allergens, in some cases in countries where the pollen count goes up very high, by pet and dust, household dust. It's not actually the dust, but something called dust mites. So when you're cleaning, first time I heard that, I said, wait a while, you know, somebody's allergic to dust. How can you be a good housewife if you, or house husband, or kid in the house, and you're told to sweep and to clean, and you say, I cannot clean because I'm allergic to dust. I said to myself, that wouldn't fly in Dominica, but it is. There are some people who are allergic to dust, and there are some people who are allergic to pet dander. So you've got a dog or cat. It's probably one of the most difficult decisions that families have to make when the pediatrician tells them you've got to get rid of the cat, you've got to get rid of the dog, and the children are saying, no, no, no. But if that's the case, that is triggering the asthma, then we certainly have to do what we have to do. And there are certain home remedies that you can take in case of an asthma attack and you don't have the medication. Okay, using ginger, using turmeric. That's a good thing to have. Turmeric is really hot, just like moringa. That's a good thing, and these things are grown locally. So you should always have those available. Omega-3 is a drug, a medication, a supplement that we should most use. Is great for cardiovascular health. Also, taking a hot caffeinated beverage. I know there's certain people, certain faiths who say, well, caffeine is a sin and we should avoid it. But the evidence is in that if you were to take a hot caffeinated beverage, a hot cup of coffee, at the time of an asthma attack, that can buy you some time to get to accident and emergency where you'll be treated. And of course, in accident and emergency, one of the main treatments is steroids. And again, some people freak out when they say, I don't want to be on steroids, whatever. It's going to save your life if you get there in time. So we don't know the details on Dr. Saint-Jean, except that we know that it was his time. And we grieve for him, you know, incidentally. And I hate to mention that, but about 3 or 4 days after Dr. Saint-Jean died, his house was burglarized, and he was planning to get married, and his wedding bands was stolen, and a lot of other household things. And I think it's very interesting. He had been living in that place for 8 years in Canefield, and had never experienced a burglary. And 4 days or so after he died, people were watching, and they knew that the house was empty at that time, and then they struck. And that tells us about the character of the human heart. How cold, how evil. But, you know, this Saturday we're going to be celebrating a great life. We're thankful to know Dr. Philip Saint-Jean. We hope and trust that this will trigger us to read up a little bit about asthma and some of the points that I've mentioned, and understand that all of us in this post-Maria period are going through a high level of stress. There are a lot of people who are thinking about their houses getting covered before the hurricane season begins again. There are lots of people who still don't have jobs or lost their jobs, and all of us are going through a whole lot of stress. So let's be kind and gentle with one another. Let's love one another, and let's pay our respects to a great man, Dr. Philippe Saint-Jacques. Thank you.
Sweet talk. Dear man, never lot of that. Yes, I. You don't know it's your boy Trilogy, urging everybody, young and old, to stay strong and stay healthy. You don't know we do it. Boom.
Yeah, done. Hello, I'm here with Dr. Knapp with you're associated with the Dominican Cancer Society. Tell us your role with the Dominican Cancer Society.
Well, present, I am the vice president of the society. I am a 9-year survivor of breast cancer. I have been the president over the last 6 years, and we continue to work as an organization taking care of cancer patients' needs within Dominica.
Good. Well, this here I'm presenting to the Dominican Cancer Society is just a token of the concern and support of Dominicans overseas. Organization called Rebuild Dominica. We also have We Are Dominica, and these are organizations of our Dominicans brothers and sisters in those areas, the United States, United Kingdom, the French territories, the United States, Virgin Islands, wherever, so-called diaspora. And this is especially here for the Cancer Society in the wake of Hurricane Maria. Here, in closing here, we won't show it, but those are breast forms. Could you explain to the public what breast forms are?
So many of our clients locally are not able to afford mastectomies. And quite often we have women walking around with socks in their bras. So as a society, we have gone on a venture to see where we can access mastectomies for our clients to ensure that they feel as a complete woman. And today we are indeed grateful for this. This will go a long way for many of our survivors. I can think of several persons who will be very appreciative of this, and we really want to tell the diaspora out here, thank you very much. We are appreciative, and this is going to go a long way in ensuring that our women feel as complete women within the social system.
And of course, this here little facial towels to help everybody look nice and nice skincare and everything like that. But we'll just take a moment to just talk about, if you may. I know you are very open in encouraging awareness about breast cancer and your own struggle, your own journey in that regard. What has been your experience that led you to be part of the Cancer Society?
All right, so in 2009 I was diagnosed with breast cancer stage 1, and for me it was a very trying time. I felt personally that I was at the prime of my life, and I felt for some reason that maybe my life it was cut short. But when I met with the Dominican Cancer Society, there was a glimmer of hope, and this I was very much encouraged by. And as a result of that hope that was given to me, I wanted to go on and encourage someone else. So I made myself a very simple promise to the Lord that if He would see me through, I would do everything that's possible to ensure that I provide that system of support for persons. Because what we have discovered is that many persons are fighting alone. And what the Dominican Cancer Society wants to encourage is to tell persons that you do not need to fight alone. We are here for you. We can be that source of encouragement, that source of comfort for you within trying times. And this is what we do. We provide support, emotional support for our clientele. We also provide financial So we undertake activities, fundraisers, whereby we can raise some funds and assist our clients. We also facilitate treatment. We do not provide treatment, but through the Guyana Cancer Institute, in collaboration with the Ministry of Health and Prime Minister, we are able to facilitate patients in both Guyana. Currently, we register premises at Guyana. Chemo is done locally, yes, but even post-Hurricane Maria, we are faced with several challenges because there has been some level of contamination of the environment. So we have tried to facilitate our patients they don't have to fight alone. It is important that you are proactive, that you take care of your health, to ensure that you do your screening on time and you come and be
In closing, I want to just ask you a couple of questions real quick. And we want to be a little bit more specific in the prevention. What kinds of screenings are recommended for the most common kinds of cancers we have in Dominica, so that someone listening might say, I haven't done that in a couple of years or ever.
So locally, we have a significant number of persons being diagnosed with breast cancer. We encourage monthly breast screening, and as well as persons who are 40, women who are 40 and over, we encourage them to have their mammograms. We also encourage persons who have family history to get checked as early as possible, as early as the age of 25. And in Dominica, we have had a few cases where men have been diagnosed with breast cancer. Currently, there are 2 survivors, and we also encourage men to do their breast screening. So it is not only limited to women. Cervical cancer is another major issue. And as a society, we are currently in collaboration with the Healthy Caribbean Coalition. We have just received a grant, and this grant is designated towards the indigenous people of Dominica. And we will be going on a drive within that territory. We will be educating the health personnel within the territory, as well as the nursing school. It is a diverse project which has several sectors. We are going to be doing education at the youth level. We are going to have the youth arm, the Dominica Cancer Society youth arm, along with other youth groups being involved in education, because we acknowledge that if we are to impact the next generation, we must begin with the youth. So this is part of the screening. We'll also be having free cervical cancer screening. We are not at the stage locally where we offer vaccination, but the pap smears are going to be done, so this is going to be done locally. For us, another increase, we have seen an increase, a steady increase in prostate screening. Prostate screening, the Dominica Cancer Society in collaboration with Ross University, we conduct a 2-day screening in each health territory, and this reform was very successful. Yes, there were challenges and there are limitations to what we can do as a society, but we believe that if persons are educated and persons are informed, prevention will be the number of cases will be
just this past week, I had a patient, a gentleman in my office who told me about he felt this grains, what he called grains under his nipple, lumps there. And when I examined him, I felt a lump under his arm. So this may well be a breast cancer, male breast cancer. We've seen a few of those here. And we need to be aware that all men have a little bit of breast tissue. And if they were to take hormones, it could really become normal looking breast. So these are the kinds of things that we need to talk about. And one more thing in closing, the whole matter of faith. I saw you this morning and you were singing songs of praise and worship. And I think the Lord has carried you through this difficult journey. But the flip side of that is that I've encountered several patients who, when they got the diagnosis of cancer, did not really comply with medical treatment because they felt they could pray about it, or ask a pastor, or ask a mother, or their shanty about it, and they did not have the benefit of the treatment, the internationally accepted treatment. Is that issue? How do we go with this issue in Dominic, which is a land of faith and a land of where the gospel is preached, and we've got a lot of churches. But is this an issue that you see? Well,
It is the patient's right to decide if he or she wants treatment. I don't think we can infringe on that right. But for everyone, you know, in Dominica we talk a lot about faith. And for me, because of my background, I believe that if you are grounded in the word, you know, man proposed, but God disposed, and it is God who determines. We all have an appointed time. I mean, we have to go. My friend tells me every time there must be a cause for them. But for me personally, I believe my faith is what that is. I believe that with God in the center, God at the core, everything is possible. And the Lord gave man knowledge, and He gave him knowledge for a particular purpose. And chemo is not a very bearable job. However, it has its uses. So one of the things we do in our advocacy efforts, we ensure that we tell the patients about the benefits. Yes, there are side effects. I am living proof that there are side effects. My hand is a side effect of chemo.
It was affected?
It was affected during chemo. The doctors don't understand how I am able to use my hand. I am left-handed. I can do everything with my hand. But yes, there are side effects, but there are benefits. So as a society, we encourage persons that they should do the full regimen of treatment. If you are advised to do chemo, you do your chemo. If you are advised to do radiation, you do radiation. You pay attention to your eating practices. It is a complete package. But most importantly, we encourage persons as much as possible to, irrespective of what we do, without God at the center of it all, it is impossible for us to go through this battle. So for me personally, I can tell you, my faith is what keeps me, my faith drives me, and I know that with God in the middle, all things are possible. Despite what may happen, I know God will continue to keep me even when things may seem very bleak, and even if there is no certainty, but it is my belief that if I continue to put my faith in the Lord, He will continue to do what He has to do on a personal level. But for patients, we encourage them as much as possible to do treatment.
Thank you, Kathy. Speaking from the heart here, I'm representing the Dominican Cancer Society and receiving a token of love and concern of Dominicans around the world in the aftermath of Hurricane Maria. When I grow up, I want to be like her. I want to be as fearless and articulate and as concerned.
I am not fearless.
I love this woman. Thank you.
In the center of
and for all you do, thanks for all you do for cancer patient survivors and for prevention of cancer in Dominica, and many blessings on the Cancer Society in your work as we go forward.